Ooh, everyone can see my screen. We're all good.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we're all coming in here slowly but surely. As you are all entering the webinar, feel free to drop where you're attending from, what your business is, any issues you have, whatever might be going on. And we'll get started in a moment here. If you see me looking up, it's because I'm looking at all of your lovely chats above me. So I'm curious where everyone is from. London. Oh, Des in Ottawa, of course, the Igloo, Oregon. Ooh, B2B software. Jessica, feel if you're welcome to share what your company is if you would like to. It's all live, obviously. So any information you guys want to share about your companies, that definitely helps us tailor what we're talking about today. Hi. Give it a few more minutes for everyone coming in. Ooh, microvellum. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Hopefully so. Let me know if I'm wrong, Jessica. EU, St. Louis. Oh, interesting. I've never heard of that. Woodworking software. Venice. Okay, we've got a few others. I'll give it one more minute and then we'll get started and jump into all of our fun stuff. Australia. I don't know what time it is there now, but I imagine it's not a convenient time. So thanks for joining us. Theo, auto assess. Up. Oh, wow. We've got a whole like variety here, you guys. Clarity. Wow. This is really cool. Thank you guys for sharing. This is super helpful. Yeah, everyone's from everywhere. If we are all ready to go, I'm going to kick it off and get started with our webinar. Feel free to keep dropping in where you're from, what you do for work, any challenges that you have, anything you want to share, and then we'll kind of tailor it today. So first, thanks for joining. If you were at our keynote before, it was definitely awesome. A lot of new features coming. So if there's anything you're excited about, let us know. I know the video features are some of my favorites. But for this webinar series, we're going to be talking about powering your B2B customer acquisition workflows. So whether you have a workflow started or you don't have one, hopefully this should help kind of kick up what you've got going. So just kind of a quick overview today. We'll do a welcome intro. I'll introduce our lovely speakers. We'll go through some challenges we're probably all experiencing, and then I'll introduce you to Clay and Double Denim, and they're going to give a nice walkthrough of some of the workflows that they use that help make them successful. And then Victor from our product team is going to go over some of the key features that you all might find helpful, and then we'll have time for Q&A. Just some kind of quick housekeeping. If you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A, and that way we can see them. And if there are questions we can answer throughout the presentation, we'll do that. If not, we'll save it for the end. And then, yes, this will be recorded. You will get a recording. So if you miss anything or if you want to rewatch it, you'll be able to do that later. Additionally, we'll also have this recording in the community. And then if you have other questions or want feedback, advice, whatever it might be, you'll also find that in the community as well. So if you are not in our community, or if you are in our community, you might have seen me poking around. I'm Liz. I answer all of your questions. And today I'm joined with Yash from Clay, Rob from Double Denim Marketing, and Victor from our product team. I will let everyone say hi if they would like to. If
Hi,
they're not,
everyone. Hey.
Go. Yeah.
hi. And then Victor's here as well. So if you are joining us, you probably have a B2B kind of business. You're probably having a bunch of, or maybe just a few challenges that you're experiencing. I know some of the more common challenges that we're noticing with customers is a good 50% say that they're having trouble understanding customer needs. So whether that's what they are looking for in a service, a product, whatever it might be, some of that data is a little bit foggy and hard to find. Another good chunk of people say that businesses are having a budget time. So they are about 19% of their budget's going to spending on ads. So you might be looking to decrease your ad cost or to bring in more customers, but lower that acquisition rate. And then I would say majority of us, no matter how good your marketing is, probably feel a little less confident that your marketing is going great, or you're not 100% sure. If anybody wants to drop in the chat any challenges they're experiencing, whether it's these or something similar, or whatever it might be. But I know these are kind of the three things that we're seeing over at Typeform. So with that, I want to introduce Yash from Clay. Clay is an amazing product that I'll let Yash tell you about, and Yash is a phenomenal person that also has a really cool workflow that I'm excited for all of you to take a look at.
Yeah, appreciate it, Liz. Thanks for the intro. I've got too many workflows to show you guys, so we'll see if I can cram them all into the quick time that we've got here. But for those of you that haven't heard of Clay before, we are simply like creative go-to-market tool to help people get the data that they need and then action that data in meaningful ways, whether it's in sales, marketing, customer success, or something else related to the customer functions or side of a company. So our big thing is helping teams go from idea to execution a lot faster and helping them personalize all of that execution a little bit better. Now, when it comes to the things that we're solving in conjunction with Typeform, I think there's a bunch of different problems, but the big ones all boil down to we always want to be quick on response time to customers wherever they are across the funnel. So if someone's reaching out to us and they're expressing interest in a product, a program, a service, an event, we want to be really quick on the uptake and make sure that they get access to the right resources, right people, right funnel in the right time. On top of that, in particular for a company that really stresses itself on customization, personalization, and data, it's very important for us to also customize well to the people that are reaching out on our forms. And so we use Typeform to get more specific data that we can then further buttress and enhance in Clay and use the two together really powerfully, which I'll show you guys in just a second. But then the last thing that I think is like one of my favorite things about Typeform in particular is just the ability for you to flex your own creativity. Creativity is like a really big value that we pride ourselves on at Clay in terms of creative go-to-market, being able to equip really fun and new ideas. A good example of that is like even last week, I had a random idea to let people forward really bad cold emails to Zapier email and then get back an email of all the different ways that they could have improved that with personalization using Clay. And so we've used Typeform to enable similar sorts of plays, one of which I will show you all in just a second. All right, so I'm going to walk through a couple of different examples. Let me share screen and then we'll jump through it. Awesome. I could show you guys a million things. I'm going to focus on three that I think demonstrate the breadth and also the depth of what's possible with Typeform and Clay and how we use it internally. First of all, I'm going to show you guys the different Typeforms that I think we use for these different areas. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of how they work in action and practice with both Clay, Slack, and all these other integrations. I think the three big reasons I love Typeform beyond what I talked about already: design capability, custom logic, which you'll see in both these forms, and then also the integratability, right? I can instantly send this data not only from Typeform to Clay, to Slack, to Airtable, to Google Sheets, all at the same time. So of the three use cases I have here, first and foremost, we have a live cohort onboarding program that we run every 2 weeks for existing paid users, potential enterprise users at Clay. Keeping that flywheel going every 2 weeks is very operationally intensive. We get a few hundred applications every week. We need to process, filter, screen, manage, respond, and then also onboard all these people based on who they are. On top of that, there's also a lot of different types of archetypes that could be in here. So this Typeform is specifically built in order to have different flows depending on which one of these four potential exceptions someone might be in order to take part in this program, while also filtering out. We get probably a few dozen submissions every week of somebody trying to sneak their way into the cohort, even though I tell them we are checking to make sure you are actually who you say you are. And so it needs to do all of this. It needs to be maximum customizability and flexibility while also still being really pinpoint accurate. And I think the beautiful side of Typeform here, and I can show you some of the logic even, right, is I can send people on different paths depending on which of the questions they're answering and conditionally include or exclude questions based on which path that they took. So the last few questions are obviously important for everyone who's applying to the form, but these first few require different sets of information depending on which archetype someone might be. Then I think what's really cool about where we go from there is I send all those responses primarily to two places. Number one, we have a live feed in Slack of every single application we receive. So I get a real-time feedback loop with the rest of the team to make sure things are being processed properly. On top of that, you can even see, depending on the archetype that we've customized from Typeform, we actually send a message with that application as well to say, hey, the person who referred you needs a quick notification so that they can be sure that they know we received their referral application. And we also get, all this kind of like one view in one channel of how many applicants do we have this week, how many emails did we send today. It's all on automated loop. The other thing that we send it to immediately is this clay table, which is doing, I'm not going to run through this in depth, but right, it checks for, is this person actually a paid customer? If so, how much do they pay us? Who's the person that referred them if they were a referral? If we've approved them from referral and paid, we send them to another table. We tag the person in Slack. We move on with the application. They get onboarded to the rest of the portal. And so we could spend a whole hour just digging into all the nuances here, but I think enabling this on autopilot for us allows us to not even have to hire a full-time person to go through and run cohort ops, which otherwise is what we were going to be doing. Two other quick examples I'll go through here before moving on is one, I think a classic one around like event maintenance and follow-ups from leads. We have a very simple Typeform we use when people go talk to folks at large events. We used this for inbound. We gave a little bit of context, but made the form something you could fill out in 2 minutes or less. This form also fills into this table where we then grab the rest of their information, who they are, what matters, and then looked up in our CRM whether or not we had already actioned that person in order to figure out if we wanted to put them in a separate campaign for follow-ups after an event or a conference for the sales team. And then last but not least, and also my favorite, the one that I'm going to send everyone in chat if they want to take a few minutes during or after the panel to fill it out, is this AI or not AI form. So this is a great example of bringing everything together around creative go-to-market, automation, and everything else I've been mentioning. One of the biggest complaints I hear from people all the time that I am always a little bit skeptical of is people say AI emails are really easy to tell apart from human written emails. And I think most of the time that's just people's ego bias or personal bias. We're working in reverse on them. It's like after I show someone a really good AI email, they're like, well, of course that was AI generated. I could tell from the instant I read it. And my guess is most of the time people are actually overconfident on that. So to test that assumption, we've made a form that automatically scores everyone's responses once they put in their full name here. And I'm not going to go through it all, but it's kind of a creative lead gen for us now where people will fill out this form and they go through, I think it's like 11 to 13 questions reading emails, and they tell us whether or not they think the email was written by AI. My challenge to everyone on the webinar today is that I've had a few hundred people fill out this form now. Not a single person has gotten a perfect score. We've had a few people get close. They've only missed 1 or 2 questions, but no one's gotten it 100% right. And so it's a really fun kind of gamified way for people to engage with us. And I think also to kind of flip the assumption that people have around, oh, I think AI emails can be garbage. By proving them in a fun way, it can actually be really high quality, which restarts a potential conversation. And we have their emails from this form as well. So we reach out to folks who are at interesting companies that we can enrich in Clay, that maybe took the form, follow up with them, and then say, hey, are you still interested in having a conversation based on what you've seen in this engagement here? So that's everything I have for the live share. Then just to round us out, a couple of last tips based on the things that I showed you guys. Design really matters in my opinion. We get a lot of feedback and comments on how beautiful the form experiences that we create for people are. People love the Clay brand and the design and the logos. And I think creating a good experience for someone to go through just makes it that much easier for them to want to give you the information they're trying to. The other one that I showed briefly, and I could show even for the AI, not AI form, logic jumps and quiz calculator scores are your friend. I think there's a lot of times where people actually want to automatically score a form based on someone's inputs, but then don't realize or remember that Typeform allows you to do that based on answers. And so that's an easy way to build some efficiencies into your process. And then last but not least, right, the 2 big things that I think about all the time, integrate. Whether it's a webhook or a native integration, you can send the data from Typeform literally anywhere as a result. and make it really seamless in your systems. And then, of course, the shameless plug for Clay or any other tool is personalize. Personalize your follow-ups. You ask someone for their time and information, use that time and information in your follow-up. Otherwise, you've wasted it. All right, I'll pass it off to Rob to talk a little bit more about what he's been doing at Jeanius Marketer.
Well, thank you so much, Yash. It was really interesting, the Clay stuff. Hi, everyone. My name's Rob. I've got a small marketing agency here in the UK called Denim Marketing, and we've been using Typeform for a few years now. So if anyone, hopefully a lot of you watching this, are in the B2B space and you're trying to get more return out of your marketing dollars, this is sort of the stuff that we've been doing, and it's been working amazingly. We now use Typeform as probably one of, if not the most crucial tool in our arsenal, and it's been fantastic. So today I'm going to sort of go through how we're using it in our business and how you might be able to use it too. So yeah, without further ado, I will jump into it. So our company, we are very much a digital marketing company, but interestingly, we sort of developed a little bit into hyper personalization, especially with the help of AI. So we do a lot of online and offline marketing, but regardless of where it is, if it's offline or online, Typeform always comes in the middle to sort of integrate everything for us nicely. So what I'll do today is I'll show you some of the digital campaigns we use and how it's generating millions of dollars for our B2B customers, as well as some direct mail campaigns and how you can hyper personalize them with Typeform as well to get those leads coming in and converting. So excuse me, sorry, I some words there. So before we started using Typeform, and some of you might resonate with this, if you do a lot of digital marketing already, or you use your website a lot for lead generation, you might suffer from this. I know we did. You might have static forms. Ew, static forms. Who uses those anymore, right? Well, static forms, we use these all the time in the other days of our business for ourselves and for our customers, but there was a huge problem with them. The cost per conversion was a lot higher than what it was now. You can't really qualify with static forms, and they're not overly flexible. So over time, we sort of explored and discovered Typeform, and it was just a godsend. It really has been fantastic. We've now been able to cut all of our cost per conversions by more than half. The lead quality dramatically improved because we're able to get rid of the sort of leads that we don't want anymore. But also, we've been able to build so many different tools on the back of it. So not even just lead generation stuff. We've been able to build quizzes, reports, calculators, all sorts of different stuff, and it's a really powerful tool. And if you can integrate it with other things, as Yash was saying about with Clay before, if you can integrate it with Zapier or something like that, you can take Typeform and do just so many crazy stuff with it. It's a really powerful platform. So I will share a screen of some use cases that we're using it for right now. So if I can pull that up, can we? Or nope. Can we all see the screen in front of me? I've got a landing page with some trucks, a truck on it. Can we all see that? I guess you can. Cool.
Yes.
No, appreciate it. So this is one of the a digital campaign that we're running for one of our customers. So we only serve B2B at the moment. We don't really like handling B2C work because it's just not what we're good at. We are exclusively B2B. And so a big part of our business is transportation, so trucking, freight forwarding, international logistics, stuff that you don't really think of very often, but our whole economy revolves around the stuff. We can't get away from it. So one of our customers here is a trucking company. I won't show the whole landing page, but basically this is a landing page where paid traffic is coming to it. So predominantly Google Ads at the moment. And we have been running this same landing page for over 2 years now. This company, PEI, have done over $4.4 million through Typeform alone. We've done a little bit more before when we were using old static forms, but just in Typeform, we've got $4.4 million attributed from business that's come from Typeform. So we've got it down to a bit of an art where when people come on our landing page, we don't want them to go on a static form. We want them to actually go through something interactive. So we've got a bit of a free quote builder that people can produce. And so One of the biggest complaints we had in the early days was lead quality. And so if you're in transportation, you've got two types of customers. You've got a personal customer that maybe needs some house moving bits, but then you've got who our customers need, business customers. So manufacturing, logistics needs to happen. They need to move products from one place to another. That is who our customers, who their customers are essentially. So a big problem we had in the early days was getting those personal inquiries through. So thanks to Typeform, we can now get rid of that sort of stuff. So we built out this 9 to 10 step form, which is fairly simple in compared to some of the other ones we do. But the great thing is we pre-qualify everything and it's able to divert and go into the different places we need it to. So I'm going to run through this quickly. We've just got, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But what we also ask, what sort of equipment might you need for your transportation? So I'm just going to use this one, it's the landing page that landed on. We ask briefly what the sort of freight that you have. We don't have every single piece of freight in here, just like some generic stuff. So I'm just going to choose from one of these. Say machinery is what we need to transport. We then just ask for a zip code. I'm just going to make one up for the essence of demonstration. So what we do is we take the pickup, the drop off zip codes. You won't see this on this form right now because it happens on the back end, but all this data, once submitted, comes through Zapier and we're able to actually build a whole route map from it, which gives us an estimate of the miles. So once people have done this whole form, we've done 3 things. We've pre-qualified them, we've scored them. So you see this question here, we actually added a score to it. So if they need help ASAP, that gives them a higher boost in the score, as well as some other little bits and pieces like if they've got a business domain instead of a gmail.com or a yahoo.com, that gives them an increased boost. So we've got a lot of cool logic happening behind the scenes in these forms. So once we're at the end, we have the sort of typical collection stuff. So Brooks, and then we ask for your company. I'm just going to put DD, email, and then it's the phone number. And that is basically the end of the form. But what's become so great about this integration is it comes through to a sales team. It's gone to the right one. So you'll see before there was a different piece of equipment. That piece of equipment determines where this lead is routed to. We've got specialist teams at PEI that handle specialist pieces of freight. So we're able to distribute based on where it needs to go. But what's even better is all about that speed of response. So what happens is when PEI get that response email, everything has been pre-formatted for them. So we're able to condense all the information, integrate with things like Google Sheets and provide extra details, like I said before, like mileage. So we've got a full picture of what this lead needs help with, and they are able to jump on it and respond rapidly. So this alone has been phenomenal for us because of the quality side of things, and it's been a really successful form. But we've got a ton of different workflows, but I didn't want to overwhelm people. So that's the main way that you guys can use it as well for sort of B2B lead qualification. But we're also doing something a little bit different here at Double Denim these days. We actually now do a lot of offline marketing, which means actually direct mail. Now, when you say direct mail, it can sound a bit boring. I get that. So we do things a little bit differently. So if you see here, this is, of course, me. We actually do this for ourselves and for our customers where we target accounts. So we go away, do research, find out companies we want to work with, and then we basically build a whole campaign based upon what we're trying to sell. So this customer we have here is Bishopsgate. They are a logistics company and they are selling this really premium logistics service. So we've got a whole campaign to do with space. I won't bore you with the details, but essentially we mail this out in the post to the person we want to work with. So I've used me as an example, but if I was the boss of a company that Bishopsgate want to work with, I might receive this in the mail. And then where Typeform comes in, we actually take them to a landing page like you just saw before. So it's hyper personalized, it's hyper targeted, and then it brings up a full story like this. So when people have seen that magazine, they've gone, what is going on? What are this company trying to tell me? So we insert that person into a full story about how they've got this amazing new logistics strategy thanks to this company called Bishopsgate, and the person is going to space because they're over the moon. A bit silly, a bit tongue-in-cheek, but that's the way we do things at Double Denim. So it's this whole tailored landing page, and then towards the end, once they've got to read all about the story and about how they've done this amazing bit of work, we then ask them to actually inquire. So we do that with, again, Typeform. So we've pulled in variables that you can see on that landing page that populated it. So here it says, hello, Rob, are you ready to talk about how we can elevate Dublin marketing's logistics? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, sure, I'd love to. And then Bishopsgate want to make sure that if someone has responded to one of these mailers, we actually want to make sure that they're qualified here as well. So on average, how many times do you deliver a month? So that's an important question. Oops, skipped ahead there. We want to know whereabouts you're delivering in the UK. So if it's just regionally, if it's the whole of the UK, or maybe if it's worldwide. And then we just want to make sure we have got Rob Brooks on the line, because this could be handed off to someone else. It could be handed off to a colleague or another employee. So we just want to make sure it is Rob that's responding to this. And I am Rob, so I'm going to say yes, it's me. But if it wasn't, I would go, okay, can you just tell us your name so that we're contacting the right person? But anyway, it is me. So I'll give them my email, give them my phone number, and that's the workflow. So it's all about, again, qualifying leads, distributing them, and taking them to the right place. And for us, I can stop sharing now and go back to the presentation. Oh, thank you, Liz. So for us, these results have been phenomenal. So before, when we were using static forms, we were averaging around sort of 10% conversion rate for our digital campaigns. We now do 25%. That's sort of our range. Some campaigns do even higher, around 40%, but on average, across all of our campaigns, we get about a 25% conversion rate. It's really interesting. So not to go off on a tangent, but there's this little quirk in psychology called the sunk cost fallacy. And I don't know if it's proven, but I think it applies to Typeform. We've had so many clients be reluctant for us to use Typeform because it has 10, 12, 13, 14 steps, but it's hyper qualified. Now, our clients get a bit worried. People aren't going to go through this whole 10 to 14 step process. We've tested it. We've proved them. Like, we're happy to test everything and see if what we're saying makes sense. And every single time, Typeform, a 14-step Typeform will outperform a five-form static form every single time. It's just, I think it's that whole, once you get a few slides in, people just want to keep going and they feel like they need to. And it's been probably the reason why it's been so successful at converting. But yeah, I'll round off quickly. So it's done over $4.4 million in revenue for our different customers. And we've generated over 2,500 leads through Typeform alone now. But yeah, so that's basically it. So I think similar to what Yash said, it's all about qualifying, making sure your leads are qualified, making sure that we're removing those ugly static forms whenever possible, and trying to customize the experience for as much as you can for your target audience. And if you're anything like me, yeah, get creative and have fun. We don't mind that the forms sometimes go against convention, but if it gives people a smile and it gets them to engage, that's what we care about. But yeah, that's everything. Who am I? Is it
It's me.
Victor
I'm
next?
back.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
just promoted it. I'm just reading through all the comments here, and it's also, I was just looking at the poll and I see that 44% of you have not used Typeform yet. So I feel like hopefully this is very inspiring and helps you dive into all the things you can do and like all the creative ways you can, get new leads and also, nurture those leads in kind of fun and unique or normal ways. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Victor, who helps lead and create a lot of the features that you've seen here, as well as other features in Typeform, to give us a little overview of some of the features mentioned here that will most likely be useful for all of you.
Certainly. Thanks, Liz. So yeah, I'm Victor. I'm a product manager here at Typeform. Thank you for watching thus far. And thank you, Rob and Yash, for those great stories. It's just really powerful when I see it all coming together for users of Typeform. I really encourage folks to actually jump into a Q&A if you have anything burning. Don't wait till the end if you have something you wanted to ask. Go ahead and type that out right now. And then we want to answer questions. We want to be as specific and I'll use a word, conversational, as much as possible. And so the reason I bring up that word, ultimately, that is one of our founders' initial concepts of what Typeform should be. It should be about conversation. So initially, several years ago, not so much now, we had this branding saying that Typeform is about conversations, conversational forms. And the reason I think that that's very powerful is because, we're in this B2B webinar here in this session, and we want to grab as much customers as possible. We want high quality leads, as Yash and Rob were telling us. And if you think about it, what's the, take it to the limit, what's the best way to do that? Well, you could have, you can hire a really big workforce and go after them. You can go after them in conferences, go after them in internet forums and so on and so forth. But that's just not possible, right? Because that wouldn't make dollars and cents. So or pounds and pence. So it wouldn't really make sense for you to do that. We need that scale, and so we need technology. And so that's why our founder said, okay, let's create a technology, let's create a tool such that we can have conversations with folks. And if you imagine, several years ago, there wasn't Typeform. And all the form software was really horrible for the respondent experience. And that's one key thing that we saw. If we start there, if we build for that experience, then they would be more willing to fill out these forms. And then ultimately we would actually get this data. And Rob was mentioning, yes, it's a very long form, but if it's an engaging form, then you can actually get those high quality leads. Furthermore, what I'm going to mention in some of these features or highlight, you already saw with Yash and Rob. Not only are these, visual eye candy as you see Typeform, but it's actually very powerful, and that's logic. So if you, touching on one of our first click here, logic jumps. That's a feature you've seen already from these two great companies. It's very powerful, right? You can, depending on the respondent coming into your Typeform, you can essentially send them on different paths. And if you were seeing the screens of Rob and Yash, it looked very complicated. Well, because humans are complicated, and so making that investment to say, if they're coming in from this particular country, if they're speaking this language, if they're interested in this, if you know their name, then we're going to send them on a different path. Again, I come back to conversation, right? That's how you have a conversation in real life. You learn about them. You say, oh, maybe you have some small talk, and you direct the conversations that's relevant to your respondent, to your lead. And then ultimately, if they're actually not that high quality, maybe you want to spend time on somebody else. And so the great thing with technology is that it's zero marginal cost. With technology. So if you actually are not interested, you would qualify. You wouldn't qualify that lead, or you would score them very low. And Typeform has capabilities to support that. So logic jumps when I see that word, or what I wanted to share is, when you see that word, think about conversation. Think about all the myriad of conversations that you can have with Typeform. And Yash mentioned integrations and personalization. And we'll get to that in a second, but I just wanted to focus on the front end and having a conversation with your respondent. And so that really gets to the second part, which is partial responses. The concept here is really, we wanted to give you the best of both worlds, right? So sometimes, even if your form is very short, people might not be interested in filling it out. But likely, if your form is longer, then folks will probably may drop off. And typically, we see that with customers. And so there's this trade-off. If you fill in a longer form, yes, you will have a higher quality lead. But what if there is that long tail of lower quality leads that actually somehow you can find like a diamond in the rough, as it were? And so that's what partial responses allows you to do. It gives you that allows you to set that threshold, as it were. So the concept of partial response is to say, okay, we're going to insert this partial, what we call partial submit point. It's invisible to the respondent, and says that, okay, if you fill in your email address, you fill in your first name and your last name, then you pass this partial submit point, those three pieces of information will already be sent to the backend. So you'll have that information as a form creator, as a person that's collecting this information from your lead. And then if you complete the rest of the form, you also get those responses. And so the reason we have this, it's essentially, that's our business model. That's how we charge you as a form creator, by the number of responses that you get. And so the concept here is that once you hit a partial response, we're going to charge you that one submission. But if you go beyond that, we're not going to charge you again. So you get to decide how essentially that how valuable your lead is depending on the information you collect. So if they don't even reach the partial response, then we're not going to charge you in terms of using Typeform. So partial response just gives you that flexibility. Think of it as a different way to have a conversation again. And then rounding it out with data enrichment here is, again, that conversation, coming back to that conversation. And sometimes you don't want to have a really long conversation, or you don't want to ask everything under the sun. Maybe it gets too boring, or they'll, imagine you're at a cocktail party and you're asking them every last thing. Maybe they don't want to talk to you anymore, right? So that's a little bit annoying. So what we've done is we've partnered with some great vendors to get this information, third-party information, to learn more about your respondents. And what's great is that this is actually integrated with logic and partial responses. This is happening in real time, again, like a conversation. Imagine as a human being, you're like, oh, okay, you went to, so-and-so college or university, and oh, I went to that place too. And did you know about that person? So the moment you grab that information, you can redirect the conversation. Well, data enrichment in Typeform works exactly like that. The moment you learn that, okay, they're making X amount of dollars if they're, or we're focused on B2B. So maybe in their company, their annual revenue is over $1 million USD AR, for example. Then you say, oh, okay, then that means this is a high quality lead for us because I really care about this. And then you send them on one logic path. And then another logic path said, oh, we're not focused on this right now. We don't have enough sales reps to handle this. So then you send them to another page to let them learn more. Or in another case, you might learn that they're right in your particular industry and you want to talk to them right away. Well, then maybe the next logic flow, you would send them to a Calendly link, and then so you can actually set up time right away. Or in the case of what Yash showed us, you would immediately send that via integration to Slack, for example, and notify one of your sales reps to make sure that they get that lead right away. So data enrichment is really powerful because not only do you get this information, but it's integrated with partial responses, with logic jumps, with all those other pieces. And so before I end, I wanted to emphasize what, again, Rob and Yash was mentioning, essentially on the back end, how all these pieces can be linked together. So Yash in particular talked about integrations, and then I don't think he mentioned it, but I saw on his screen share, he was definitely using webhooks and probably maybe API calls, I don't know. But as any good enterprise SaaS app, we support a plethora of integrations. So use any other business tool that you already have. We can likely send data to it. And if it's not on the list, submit a feature request to us. But even better, we have open APIs where you can query data in your Typeform account, so you can get those responses. And we also have webhooks. So webhooks meaning that you can register a webhook to say that if you get a new response, for example, or even if you get a partial response, we immediately send that message to another system that you may be hooked up together. So if you're a developer or work closely with developers, then this is very simple. We've seen customers do it, within a day to get these things set up. So everything from no code all the way to low code, we support within Typeform. So I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions and hand it off back to Liz.
Ooh, okay, I have a question from, I'm really sorry if I butcher your name. I believe it's Rainan. So Rob and Yash were coming in hot with a good but challenging question. The question is, I work for an e-com brand that sells custom made-to-order products with 10 weeks lead times and long consideration times and high average value of $1,300. We use Typeform a lot to warm up leads and educate customers about our product. Do you have any unusual, creative Typeform workflows for products like this? We're asking you to be creative on the spot. While they think of that, I also just want to encourage everyone, if you do have questions similar to this or in general, think of them. We will have a community thread, so feel free to also ask them later if you think of one at midnight.
But I mean, like you said, Liz, it's difficult to be creative on the spot. But having said that, one of my go-tos when I'm launching a new campaign, especially if it's a social campaign, and you're trying to get that awareness and trying to get people to engage with your product or service, might be connecting a Typeform to something like Google Slides via Zapier, and then building maybe I call them a quiz it. Well, I guess everyone calls them a quiz, but we basically produce these reports where people ask a load of questions. So in this case of the bulk order, is it clothing? Is that right? Or this custom made product, maybe it's a case of asking a load of questions around it. And then on the back of it, you can really customize with Zapier and Google Sheets, all those bits and pieces, and actually produce a bespoke report that maybe has an idea of what the price would be, or maybe an idea of factors that are going to affect your costs. So, for example, let's say there's going to be some hand stitching that'll cost more. So maybe you could, maybe it could be something like that. It's very hard on the spot, but you can make a lot of like creative stuff like that. Doesn't really answer the question though.
Right. I also want to encourage you to post it in the community so that way too we can also share like more specific resources. But I think also maybe to go along with this question, because it looks like about 43% of people that are on this call and webinar, whatever we want to call it, are new users to Typeform. So I know you guys showed a lot of really cool workflows and solutions, but if somebody's totally brand new to amping up their forms, where would you all suggest beginning, or where did you start with Typeform and building your workflows?
I guess in that case, it would just be, yeah, I have apologies, everyone. I do have a tendency to go straight for the most complicated solution, which probably isn't the best. But actually, in that case, maybe it is just something more simple where because with Typeform, you can have questions with images or icons embedded. I really like those. And maybe it could be a case of some initial questions about the different products or the different styles of product that you have, and maybe get people to rate them if they like this style more than that style, and maybe sort of it'd be more fun. It's not very salesy focused, but something more simple like that. So what do you think of this style? Rate out of 5 or something like that, and then go on to the next question, which is maybe what do you think of this, that, and the other. Yeah, again, it's tricky on the spot, isn't it? But you can make it's with just the really simple features within Typeform, you can make something interactive and cool like that.
Yeah. I would say my answer to this question and the last question is actually kind of the same. I think it's really hard to come up with like reasons to use a tool ad hoc or like ways to learn it, because otherwise, if you don't have a specific use case in mind, you're just going to go try and pour over all the documentation and learn every single feature available, and you're not going to know which one's relevant to you. I think for learning Typeform and also for like coming up with creative use cases in niche industries, start with the problem that you're looking to solve first, and then figure out how you might be able to build that solution using Typeform. And again, like Victor was saying, all the other integration partners. I think most of the time, and actually the first way I found myself to Typeform was I wanted a form that had partial completion. And that was before they even had partial completion as a feature. I had to like stitch it together using hidden variables from one form to another. And like I figured it out, but that was because I knew we had a long form and I wanted to see if there was a way to like get people's emails and then follow up with people who had only completed 40 to 50% of it. And that's how I found my way to Typeform. And so as an example of that, right, if I'm thinking about like e-commerce, niche creative use cases, if you're in a niche and you're in e-commerce, I would, and this is the Clay bias coming in, but you could scrape your list of e-commerce stores, right? Figure out what products each of them sell using an AI web scraper on top of that to enrich the data, personalize the forms that you're sending to each of those people so that it feels like it was made just for them. That's a crazy experience when I get a form and it's like, hey, Yash at Clay, curious about what people in education and partnership roles have been doing. I noticed that you have been in your role for 8 months and I'm curious what you've learned so far. I'm like, how did they do this? Right? But you can do that kind of stuff at scale if you start with the solution in mind and work your way back to the process.
Okay, that is crazy in the best way where I'm like, will you make me a custom form? I know we're over time, so I want to be conscious of time because I know there's other sessions that I'm sure you all want to go to. Just some next steps, and you'll get these slides too afterwards. There is a helpful guide that will walk you through how to use Typeform for a lot of these use cases, or even just getting started with Typeform, which I know a lot of you are. We do have this awesome community thread, so if you have questions, if you're looking for help with figuring out solutions to problems your customers have or your potential customers have, feel free to drop it in there. We all do interact. And then we will have a Tune Up Your Typeform webinar, which basically, if you would like us to take a look at your form and basically pimp my ride it to speak of better words. We'll take a look, we'll get feedback, and that will hopefully help make all of your forms successful and with leads. With that, otherwise, there are 2 great sessions coming next. I am going to let everyone hop to it and just say thank you to Victor and Rob and Yash. I know I have a lot of stuff I need to work on now in my form. So thank you all, and thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it. So
Thank you for having me.
thanks.